Hey there, Christy with Automation on a Mission and your latest installment of our Business Booster training. This week, we are talking about creating custom dashboards and making the case essentially for why reporting is important and matters in your business. So I do have a one slide presentation, and then we're going to actually dive into Automation on a Mission and talk specifically about how to utilize the dashboard in your system so that it actually shows information that you care about. So let me do my share screen right fast. All righty. So in terms of my one slide, here we go. Creating dashboards that work for you. Why this actually matters. So if you have not set up your dashboard, and I'm going to go out on a limb and assume if you're watching this, you probably haven't. How do I know? Because an overwhelming majority of our clients don't use the dashboard feature in their system. And the reality is when you don't have that and you want to know something that's happening in your business, the work that you have to do is typically a lot harder. It's going to take you a lot more time. And that's assuming you get to the bottom of what it is that you actually are trying to research. So the goal here is to give you an opportunity to create a system or a visual representation of the things that you actually want to see, the things that matter most to you in terms of your goals, priorities, and tracking your progress on those things. So when it comes to creating a custom dashboard, why it matters, because it gives you real-time performance insights on what's happening. And when we talk about performance and insights, we're talking about things like tracking the growth of the size of your list, tracking things like email engagement, tracking your pipeline, or tracking sales. Like, what does my revenue look like? How does my revenue measure up to my goals? Those kinds of things are things that you should be able to have an instant awareness of without having to do tons of research and number crunching in order to find out, am I on track or am I not? Your dashboard should be the place that gives you the idea of, yep, it's a good day to take a half day and go get my Starbucks or go hang out with my friends, or maybe I need to work a little bit longer today. I don't have the luxury of clocking out early in my own business because I have goals and my numbers say I'm not on track today to meet those. I'm not saying that you're one way or another. I'm saying that your dashboard is going to give you the perspective to tell you whether or not you need to either adjust your goals or continue to push towards reaching those. So another reason why I think dashboards are super important is because they are a time saver. And I've kind of already hinted at that. So you can say, I want to know how many people have joined my mailing list in the last 30 days. And you can certainly go into your contacts and search for that information. But wouldn't it be nice to know that every time you log into your dashboard, that number is readily available? Or I want to know how I'm doing in terms of the ad spend on the Facebook ads I just created, because that's something that you can track in there. I want to see where I'm at in terms of how my testimonials are measuring up. Am I getting testimonials? When was the last time I received a testimonial? I want to know about my pipeline. I have taken 3 days off work and I'm coming back and I'm not sure where to start. My dashboard should be a place that I can look and see where's the low-hanging fruit that I need to focus on, because my pipeline is reflected in my dashboard. So when we talk about it being a time saving, all that information is stored in your system. Can you go and do that? Absolutely. But wouldn't it be nice to do it once and then have that information in real time all the time? And then the next part, and I've hinted at this through all of it, is when you create a dashboard that specifically meets your goals and your priorities, it is the thing that can help you hold yourself accountable. And one of the great double-edged sword about being an entrepreneur is there's nobody driving you. You drive yourself. So whether you think about it as a personal goal or a professional goal, your dashboard can be a place where you go to find out, who do I need to follow up with because I get a task, on my dashboard? Where am I at as it relates to those revenue goals? Maybe I have a goal of generating at least 30 leads a month, new leads per month. And my dashboard is a way for me to get that information and see, am I on track? Am I not on track? And then what do I need to do with that information in order to move the needle, to make sure that those things are, that I'm achieving my goals, that I'm succeeding. So goals only work when we know exactly where we stand in reference to them. So when you create a goal and you have no mechanism to achieve them, it's pretty difficult to know whether or not you're ever going to really realistically get there. I can say, and I'll tell you right now, I'm not $1 million business. And I'm also not close to being $1 million business. So if I say today that my goal by the end of 2024 is to become $1 million business, And then you ask me how I'm gonna do it, and I ain't got an answer. But if I can have specific tangible outcomes that are gonna get me there, I can put them on my dashboard and then use my dashboard to help me make sure that I stay on track, that I don't lose sight of what's important to me, and that I'm moving in the direction of achieving those goals. So that's what we talk about when it comes to how valuable and important a dashboard is in the day-to-day runnings of your business. So without further ado, let's take a look at your system. So this is our demo account, frequently called the dumpster fire, but I cleared the dashboard for this training. So when I come in here today, if I was to log out and log back in to my demo account, this is what it's going to look like. Now, you probably have some things on there that you've tweaked or adjusted in the past, or you may still have the default dashboard that came with your application when you signed up. Either way, it's all good. You can delete them and you can start from scratch, or you can work with what's already there. Either way, it's totally fine. Now, let's say you get to this screen that we have showing up right here. I actually find this is good to get me started, but I actually have a lot more power and flexibility than what you can see here. So I'm going to click on this pencil and I'm going to say add a widget. Now I can put all kinds of stuff on here. And I do want to show you something that's out of the box as well. But before we dive into that, I'm going to start by one of the things that I care about is the size of my list. And I'm not saying I care about the size of my list because, oh, you know, the bigger the list, the better. But I want to know that my list is growing. I want to know that I'm generating new leads, because if I continue to expect to tap into the same people who've been on my mailing list for years and still haven't purchased, you know, maybe they will, but I probably need to be focusing my efforts on something else, like getting referred business or, you know, creating a new lead magnet or networking in a new environment, you know, those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, whether those leads are coming from a referee, or from a lead magnet, that's a new contact in my ecosystem. So I'm going to start with contacts, and I can do one that is, let's start with total contact count. So this is going to give me the size of my list today, right? And I can adjust something. So like I can do it based on a couple of different things. Now I can have it be searching for this information based on the date that it was created. And I can do it based on updated, birthday, last activity. So let me give you a scenario for each one of these things. And I am going to call out updated on and last activity first. So the difference and the distinction between these two things in particular. Updated on is going to be a contact record that has a change. That could be a tag has been applied. It could be that your that like maybe a custom field has been updated. Maybe you started with their name and their email and now you have their phone number. Those are the kinds of things that are going to trigger not only you know, adding that new information, but it's also going to give you an updated date and timestamp to say this is the most recent changes on this account. Last activity is their last interaction with your business. That could be clicking around on your website. If you have our widget installed on your website, it could be that they've made a purchase, booked an appointment, opened an email, clicked on something in your email. Those are things that are considered last activity. So these are going to be things that are user generated. So your contact generated. These are things that are going to be generated by the system. And then the third one is, or the fourth one, I guess, is birth date. So maybe you want to have all the people on your, in the month of October, for example, and you're paying attention to those people because you want to give them a phone call. If you've ever watched my Perfect Customer Journey training, I talk about how State Farm years and years ago kept me as a client, even though they kept raising my rates because they called and sang me happy birthday on my voicemail. You know, like, so, you know, hey, that does work for some people. Apparently I'm pretty, you know, like my standards are pretty low, in that regard. So it's up to you, but like, maybe that's a criteria that's important to you, or maybe your business does a lot more to celebrate individual birthdays. So for the moment, I'm just going to say created on, and I'm going to leave it at the dashboard date range. And I'll show you what that means when we save our work. So I'm going to say total contacts counted. And the date range is this date range right here. And so if my contact count is so like this number is 0, even though that we have contacts, because the number of contacts that have been added between August 11th and September 10th, so the last 30 days, is nothing. So there's been no new contacts added to this particular account. But let's say I change my mind and I want to edit this. And I want to say, I'm going to change it to custom. And I'm going to change it to, I'm going to go back as far as August of 2020, because I'm pretty sure that this account didn't exist back then. And let's see if I may not be able to go back that far. Let's see. Let me do. Is it gonna let me do it? It might not let me do it that way. So I'm just gonna keep it simple. So we're gonna just do this year and then the number of contacts that have been created in the last year. So we've got 4. So that's a nice little tidbit. That's a good number to have. And also notice that it tells me the date or the time parameter that it's tracking. So now I want to pay attention to maybe another thing I care about is, and I would certainly encourage, spend time in here. Once you set this up once, you don't have to come in here and do a whole bunch, just pay attention to the data and the numbers that are on here. This is essentially reporting. It's just reporting that you save so that you can refer back to it over and over again. Now I want to do ones that are contacts, and I'm actually going to use this one, total contacts this month. And the same thing that I did before, where I could change the settings, I can change that again to like, it would essentially do the same thing as if we did this year, but I'm going to leave it to this month. Let's just see what the difference is. So I know that the number of contacts that I've gotten in the last month is 0, but the number of contacts I've gotten in the last year is 4. So that's kind of nice to know. I'm paying attention to, and maybe I'm comparing, maybe I use these two pieces of data, in complement or in contrast to each other, however you want to, think about that. And also I want them to be a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna make that so that they're more the same size. And I don't know if you noticed, but when I clicked on this number by accident, it actually gave us that list of people. So that is the first phase. Now you're going to see more adjustments and changes to our dashboard and the reporting so that you're then able to do something useful with this in the future beyond just looking at who those contacts are. But there's just sort of a good example. So we've got 2 here that are really about tracking the number of contacts we've got in our system. Now, before I move on to any of the other ones, I do want to show you. So to me, it feels a little bit like a no-brainer that the number that, or the thing that we care about is just like one solid number. But sometimes you might want to see your data in a different format, and maybe the number isn't super helpful. Maybe a donut or a line graph or a bar chart is going to help you understand the way that your organization is. And that was not a good example. My apologies. Hang on 1 second. Let's do that with this one. We're going to edit that guy, and we're going to change it from be prepared to be disappointed, because we're not comparing anything. So this may not be, the other options may not be super valuable to me. Let's just keep it simple and straight to the point by using the number. And then let's use our bar chart or our graph for something else that may be more appropriate to use that sort of formatting. Okay, so now I've got my numbers and that looks good. Maybe I want to do, let's see, what do we got? Okay, tasks. I actually care about the tasks that I have going on in my business. I don't want to have to look at the tasks in the contact section. I want to look at the tasks on my dashboard. The dashboard is the first thing that shows up every time I log into my system. So if I'm coming into the app, this is the first thing I see. And it's also the most important things about how I spend my time. And it's only going to show me the things that matter the most to me. So now I'm going to get a little OCD here and try to make it so that this information all fits on one row. So it's not, you can do more. My type A, I'm gonna let my type A go. What I'm trying to say is that you get to adjust the size so that it can fit the format that you want. Now let's say you want to pay attention to, I'm going to save those things right now. Well, so here's a fun one. So sales efficiency. And this is going to give me the average sales, total sales, sales velocity. And I can even go so far as to narrow this down to a specific salesperson. So if you have team members in your business that are helping drive sales and you want to see how one person is doing compared to another, here's a perfect example. You get to decide exactly what that looks like. And once again, now this stuff is probably going to be lackluster because again, this is our demo account. So imagine what this looks like, or maybe just go in and do it in your own business and experiment with some of these tiles to see what they're going to give you. This may not be the best, example for keeping track of sales. Maybe your opportunities are the way that you want to do that. So here's an example of something that's going to give me a similar outcome. So I'm going to do, this widget is one opportunity. So if I create a rule in my system that anytime a purchase is made, it's marked as a one opportunity, then this is going to show up as a, it'll show up as a completed sale in my opportunities. Now, it's not going to give me an accurate count in terms of dollars and cents if I'm not using the sales pipeline appropriately. But here's an example of another way that you can achieve the same thing. So this is going to be connected to your payments and transactions. This is going to be connected to your pipeline. And just like before, we have the ability to keep track of our data as it relates to a specific date range. So maybe we're looking at just focusing on this current quarter. Maybe we're focusing on ones that were the status has changed. So the criteria for the quarter is going to be specifically any of the ones that the status has changed this quarter. And you can make your additional adjustments here. We can also go so far as adding additional filters. So what if your filter is based on a lead value or a specific pipeline? So maybe you have a different pipeline for different products, and you want one of these tiles to show the pipeline for one product and one of these pipelines or tiles to show another product. So as an example, we have a few clients that do both wedding planning and event management. And they want to keep track of their wedding revenue separate from corporate, private parties, events, and other things like that. You might have two separate pipelines. Also, the follow-up and the automations are different, and you get to keep track of your sales and your goals and your priorities separately as well. So that's how those things can work. And then when you have your, you decide your metric. I prefer the horizontal bar when it comes to keeping track of my pipeline stages. Now, because this is just one opportunities, it's probably going to be better as like a number. And those pieces are totally up to you. So now, let's see, what are some other ones that I really like? Maybe you're in the, you have a high volume of appointments. So we've got tiles in here that are going to show you widgets in here that are going to give you the ability to compare, similar to what we did up here about total booked appointments versus the number of appointments that showed versus the number of people who didn't show up at all or just simply canceled. Maybe you want to separate your appointments by who are they booking with, the kinds of appointments, like are they using your 30-minute booking link or your 60-minute booking link? You get to create all kinds of different metrics specifically related to appointment bookings. Opportunities, and I brought the guy up there before, but your opportunities can also show your entire pipeline. So this can be specifically focusing on one opportunities, but it also can focus on your opportunities as it relates to where are they in your entire customer journey. How about conversations? If you want to keep track of the conversations that you haven't responded to, if you're active in using the email and text threading or a thread or social media conversations and things like that. What else we got? Calls, similar to conversations. If you're in the business of doing a lot of sales calls, you can create specific metrics related to outgoing calls, incoming calls. We did work with a cold caller for a while, and so her efficiency was super important, and using those kinds of metrics was very helpful for me in understanding what was working and what wasn't in our strategy. And I used the dashboard to help me understand and refine the process that she was operating by. And then in the general category, we've got a whole bunch of things. And I think this is actually my favorite one in terms of being able to track the pipeline. And it's because it's going to show you multiple pipeline stages at the same time. And then you got your funnel, it's same thing, stages, distribution. Now this is going to give you, is pulling data from the same area, but it's going to display it and organize it in a little bit of a different way. Manual actions are things like if you build into an automation a nudge or a tickle for yourself that is to make a specific phone call, then that manual action is to go and do that. And in your conversation section, you actually will have a list of people to pick up the phone and call and say hello to. Lead source reporting is a great resource if you're trying to figure out the best bang for your buck. Is it your organic outreach? Is it your Facebook ads? Because our system actually does a very good job of tracking where your leads are coming from. And then you understand where to continue to put your dollars and cents and your maybe even your sweat equity, because it's able to then identify what those things are. I also love that you have the ability to keep track of your social media advertising as well as your Google advertising and your Google business profile. So if you have, and I prefer to put this guy down towards the bottom because I really want to see all this stuff across the board here. And maybe I'm also, I think that this is how it looked when I first started working in the system. And so I like it when it looks like this. But anyways, this is going to give you, because it's connected to your ads manager, it's going to give you the specifics. If you want to identify a specific ad, it'll give you the specifics to those specific ads. It'll take a look at your entire account as a whole. Same thing with Google. So if you want to know and track your ad spend and the efficiency of your ads and your ad sets and things like that, you can incorporate this into your dashboard, which then eliminates the process of having to go into your ads manager and getting that information from there. So one less thing that you have to click outside of the system to get the information that you need to know. So there's a whole bunch of different kinds of widgets that you can use. And notice I'm in a tab called widgets. And the last thing I want to show you before we go in is, let's say, for example, you can't find a widget that gives you the information that you want. So one of the things that I created, I've been working on this course, and I created a Google Sheet that was all about measuring KPIs. So let's say, yeah, this is good. I like the numbers as it relates to my total contacts and things like that. But really what I want to be paying attention to is email and SMS campaign performance. I want to see how every single email broadcast that I have going out is showing up. So I made myself a Google Sheet and it's going to track this information. I can even probably, and I haven't tested this out, but I'm assuming that I can make a Zap that is going to allow me to, every time a campaign goes out, it's going to connect to my Google Sheet and give me all of this information. And then when that's done, if I bring this Google Sheet over to my dashboard, I go to elements and I click on this embed here. Now I got a choice between an iframe, which is like taking a code snippet and sticking it in, or a URL. And I put my URL in there. Now my spreadsheet is in my dashboard. And I'm able to see that specific tab from inside my dashboard. So I don't have to keep this open. I can just include it as a part of my dashboard. And every time a campaign goes out, that data is updated. And not only am I seeing my most recent email go out, I'm looking at the whole picture of what is my performance looking like. Well, look at that. I've had an increase in the number of, my percentage of opens, and my click-through rate is managed to maintain. That's good. Awesome. Count that as a win. So here's just sort of an example of something that may be important to you. Like, this is something that would be important to me. I'd like to have this on my dashboard because it's bypassing something that may not be available. And I'm not saying to you that this is the only way to get this data. I'm just saying that this might be the way that your brain works, or that there might be a report that you can't get on your dashboard that you can put in your dashboard if you use the elements. And then when I save this guy, now my dashboard has that that specific URL that I inserted in here. So when it comes to you creating your dashboard, what I want you to be thinking about is what are the things that you think about and either go back and repeat over and over and over again. What are the reports that you wish you had easy access to and don't have the time to go and pursue, and put those on your dashboard? What are your goals for the rest of this year? And what do you need to bring into your dashboard so that you're able to see how on track you are to that? So I just gave you an example. Maybe one of the widgets that you put on here is a Google Doc that is your mantra. That is the thing that says exactly what's important to you and why it's important to you, and et cetera, et cetera. So how does that work for you? How do you make your dashboard fit your goals, your priorities, and ultimately set you up for success? So that wraps up my training on dashboards and reporting. I hope this is helpful and beneficial. I hope it inspires you to use numbers to help you get where you want to go in your business. And as always, let us know if you have any questions. See you on the next Business Booster. Thanks.